Okay, so I think the important point is there's a distinction between knowledge and ability, right? So think about that. How do you gain knowledge? You can gain knowledge by being taught, you can gain knowledge from books. But then, once, let's say, you gain all the knowledge, you take all the tests, you pass, now what? You graduate from school and you take your knowledge and you put it in practice in real life. In other words, as a learner, how do you act? What do you do? And what's your way, your strategy for achieving learning now in this new real life phase of learning that is different from learning in school? If I give you a class, if you go through the school of driving and you learn in that school way, all there is to learn and all there is to know about driving. When you pass all the tests and you've done all the learning, can you walk out there and get into a car and drive? So you need to drive a lot more. For language, the distinction between knowledge and skill, knowledge and ability, is very important. So you've gained the knowledge, and through that knowledge, you're able to attain some level of skill. But if you are going to be the best you can, or operate, put into practice that knowledge at a high level of ability, you still need to do a lot of practicing, right, of that knowledge. And a couple of things there are very important. So this exercise is conscious. It's another example. If you have learned all there is to learn about the culinary arts, your dream is to be a chef, the best chef you can be. And you went to culinary school and you learned techniques and you gained lots of knowledge about food, and right? And now you're going to open your kitchen and your restaurant, and you're going to so in that process, do you want to become a better chef? What do? Does it start with, making that decision, right? So what do I need to do? Or same thing with an athlete. So if you want to be the best basketball player that you can be, and maybe you've met people in your life, or even you yourself have a complex skill like that you have undertaken to become the best at that you can. So it's something that you deliberately and consciously do because you have an understanding of what it takes to get to where you want to be. Put yourself in situations where you have to drive at a level, right? Pushing always. And the same thing with the basketball player, and the same thing with the chef. So with language learning, it's no different. What you're trying to do when you hope to take your language ability from a knowledge level of ability, where everything is very conscious. You have to, it's hard to retrieve that knowledge to have access to it. But if you then now have to consciously make a decision, no, I'm going to undertake specific types of activities, exercises that will continually improve and push the limits of my ability to put that knowledge into practice to a point where I don't have to think about it. It's not, cognitively heavy to try to access the knowledge that you need to operate, right? Think about that. If you remember the first time you ever sat behind the wheel of a car to drive, Do you remember feeling like, oh my God, this is like, I'm never going to be able to do this because there's so many things to remember. It's the mirror, it's this one here, and it's, I have to think about this. What does this car feel like? I don't feel like I'm in control of this. And you persisted. You want to drive, you need to drive. It's a fact of life. You have that desire, that intention. And over time, what happens? And you get to a point where you can be driving, talking to someone, even some people using their cell phone, right? And thinking about your issues, your problems. You are operating that system. You don't even think about it. But that doesn't just happen, right? You don't wake up one day and, ooh, you're a great driver. So the same thing with language ability. It starts out as learning in the sense that we usually think of learning, being taught, learning, gaining knowledge about something. That knowledge allows you to function to a certain level. But if you really want to elevate to a level of second nature, where you can really fully implement that knowledge, then you need to go through a process now of turning that knowledge into skill. And this is something that requires conscious, deliberate action, right? The kid that makes a point of every moment of his day, get in some basketball time in the court so that, he has a sense of where he's doing well and where he isn't, what he needs to improve, and he or she puts themselves in these situations more and more until they attain a level, right? It's a similar process. It requires redefining now, learning, it's developing and perfecting and continually expanding your level of skill, and also gaining more knowledge that way. And that process now starts from a conscious, deliberate decision to undertake certain activities that will take you to that level, and understanding and accepting that there's a time, there's a process that is required to undertake this practice to get to a level, right? So one thing I tell my learners is, how long has it been since you've been in this country? So I work with a lot of learners who are living in the United States, non-native English speakers living in the United States, and they come to me in a classroom setting of a university program, at an intermediate, advanced level even, and they're still seeking a higher level of comfort, of control, of confidence, of ability in the language that they know they don't have. But they are still approaching that as, teach me. And my first question often to my learners in those settings is, okay, so what are you doing today? Give me one thing, two things that you deliberately do today to improve, to expand your level of ability in the language. What do you think happens when I ask that question? They have a hard time coming up with what they do. And sometimes what they do say is things that they do that are based on that old concept of learning from school. So you translate words, you memorize things, a lot of hard work you can do thinking that you're learning language when in fact what you're doing is not really leading to a higher level of ability. So new type of learning, new types of activities, new types of learning activities.